what are the process-oriented goals? Like do chess, like learn chess a little bit, at least every day or something like this? Like do puzzles 15 minutes per day?
That is very measurable, right? So let's say that we're talking about a player who recognizes tactics as their weak spot. So what sense does it make then to go like, okay, so my goal is 1900? Like, the diagnosis of what doesn't work versus what we are working toward, there's almost no overlap. What we instead should be thinking of is, okay, so what we want to do is that you need to do calculation exercises, which is very different, by the way, from puzzles, because puzzles is just one of the many ways of calculating exercises. But let's go with calculating exercises an hour, let's say every second day. Do that for 6 months as a regular training routine, and have a look then back at how much we have progressed, how we are traveling, what the game analysis. We are still not talking about ratings, whether your rating has gone up from, blah to blah, A to B, but much rather like we have a look at games you played at the beginning of this when we decided that we take up this 1 hour every second day calculating progress or process. And then you look at 6 months later and you go through the games played by the student, and hopefully we notice that their tactical awareness is far greater. The number of blunders have been reduced. The number of mistakes identified made by the opponent that we are exploiting now is far greater, yada, yada, yada. All of these translate to rating points, but instead of chasing the rating points, we now have things that we can appreciate, praise the student for. The student's, self-esteem can grow, and we see a direct link of work accomplishment, right? Oh, I saw this motif in one of my flashcards, or I calculated this really well because this is what I have been doing. So, and sometimes, you lose games because of another reason, right? So let's assume that we've spent a lot of time on calculating, but our endgame technique is still lacking. And so we lose the odd game here and there. And the rating, let's say, just plateaus. So now if we look at that 6 month period and we only look at rating to rating, we go like, we've accomplished nothing. Whereas the reality is that our student is now far better at a certain facet of the game. And now we can move on to a new goal, nurture now the lacking endgame technique, not quite dropping the calculation. And so we have got now a really awesome chain of learned, acquired, implemented kind of process. And sometimes the numbers don't immediately do justice to the learning that took place. But in a long run, it's almost inevitable that if you put in the work, especially if the work is adjusted or rather addressed to the needs of the student, it should happen. In the long run, almost certainly the numbers will reflect the work that was put in.
You gave some interesting examples. And also I noticed you say something about flashcards. Do you use them in the chess training?
It's funny you mentioned that because it just popped up in my mind because so many people do it nowadays. It has become a really, really big trend. I am neither a pro nor a con guy about this. Look, whatever works. If you think that, flashcards are a way for you to keep your mind fresh and, do this repetitive, just pull it out, have a look at it. If you do it, then fine. If not, then put it aside and reflect on why it didn't work. So be it. I really don't necessarily think that there is good or bad ways as long as the chosen exercise is designed to accomplish that certain goal or, address a certain problem. It's a lot of work. That's my only issue with the flashcard is that why don't you just pick up a book from your desk, which is a collection of puzzles rather than cutting and chomping and gluing and sticking. I feel like it's unnecessary energy, time, etc. But if it works for someone, so be it. I don't want to be the party pooper.